Stumbling on happiness. It's an interesting phrase, isn't it? Daniel Gilbert wrote a book called Stumbling on Happiness, and it fundamentally dismantles how we construct our own futures. In Stumbling on Happiness, Daniel Gilbert doesn't just, ask us to want less or be more mindful. No, he asks whether our wanting can actually see. Because ultimately, stumbling on happiness is an exploration into the very architecture of the self. Welcome to this explainer, where we are going to unpack exactly what that means.
So consider this. What if the future you chase is not missing, but misdrawn? Now you're likely a high agency individual, right? You've built whole days, entire years, around an imagined, later version of yourself. You say yes with a tight throat, you say no with a clenched stomach, and you call it discipline. But here is the reality slap. What we dress up as long-term planning is often just nervous threat rehearsal. You aren't actually planning. Your nervous system heard danger, and future hoarding became your affective forecasting error.
We're going after the hidden planner here. I'm not talking about your lazy self. Actually, I mean the hidden planner that mistakenly thinks scarcity is wisdom. It whispers that every hour must be proof, that every single choice has to defend a life you never want to lose. But here's the thing. The body treats an imagined loss exactly like a real loss. You might have this absolute trust in your vividly imagined future, but your physical reality? It's a narrowing chest and a jaw that's basically become a calendar.
Act 1. Ignition. Let's look at how we predict tomorrow.
Think about the false planner versus the hidden body. The false planner confidently tells you that more speed will save the destination. And that voice, it sounds adult, doesn't it? It sounds clean, even noble. But then, look at the biological reality of the hidden body. The shoulders climb up. The breath gets incredibly shallow. The eyes are constantly scanning for leaks. We praise this noble-sounding voice of planning while entirely ignoring the biological reality of panic and scarcity humming right beneath it. The future spoke first.
And that brings us to affective forecasting error. This happens when the body treats an imagined loss like a real present loss. Our minds predict tomorrow with an incredibly unearned confidence. We assume, that if we can picture a future clearly, we can automatically trust it. But that belief is literally just a costume. We become these blind architects driven entirely by fear, making decisions based not on strategy, but based on a tight chest.
Act 2. The wound. Let's dig a bit deeper.
Which leads us to presentism. This is where we project our current feelings directly into future scenes. Your brain absolutely hates missing frames in its inner cinema, so it just fills in the gaps without telling you it's doing it. You picture a new role, but you omit the exhausting commute. You picture freedom, but somehow you leave out the loneliness. You picture wealth, but you omit the brand new fear of losing it. You vividly picture the praise, but you completely omit the silence after the applause. Your imagination boils off all the texture. What remains tastes intense, sure, but that doesn't mean it's actually true.
To fix this, we've got to flip our paradigm. The old paradigm says introspection is a clear window into your soul. But the new paradigm, it reveals that introspection is actually a projection room. Vividness is not evidence. I want you to think of a specific moment when you chased relief, absolutely convinced it would save you, only to arrive and find a reduced, bitter reality. That wasn't a failure of your effort. It was a failure of your inner cinema using today's color grade on tomorrow's scene.
Act 3. The descent.
Consider this. The fingerprint proves contact. It does not prove clarity. Think of your imagination like a fogged-up mirror, with just a single clean fingerprint swiped right through the haze. Desire touches the future, yes. It makes contact, but it does not see the future wholly or accurately. We mistake a tiny smudge of contact for a crystal-clear prophecy. It's just like being in a music hall, where the wrong room resonance can make a note seem way louder than it actually is, making a fear echo until it feels like a hard, undeniable fact.
And that brings us to a massively misunderstood mechanism, the psychological immune system. These are the hidden mental operations that repair meaning and reframe setbacks after a loss. And there is a sharp irony here. We fear pain because we completely ignore our own capacity for repair. We treat imagined setbacks as permanent, catastrophic damage. We imagine failure as this immovable identity mark, entirely forgetting that our minds will actually start the repair work before we even notice we're bleeding.
The solution requires us to abandon our old models. The old model worships uniqueness. It tells you, no one is exactly like me. My case is incredibly special. No outside evidence applies to my life. But the refined model uses similarity as a tool. We have to challenge the arrogance of our own soft voice. We need to use other people's lived experiences as actual data, like weather stations from a country we haven't entered yet.
You can borrow witnesses without surrendering your agency and let ordinary evidence touch your sacred story.
Act 4. The Turn.
So here is your new framework. 3 cleaner questions to audit your forecasts. Number 1, what am I filling in? Number 2, what am I leaving out? And number 3, who has already lived near this choice? By asking these, you deliberately slow down your internal cinema. You remove the frantic theater from your decisions. You stop asking a present body to speak for an absent self, and you literally stop letting omens replace actual grounded scouting.
Because the ultimate goal is calibration over certainty. Discipline has to change shape here. Discipline isn't about forcing a frightened forecast to obey your will. True discipline is refusing to let fear write the whole forecast in the very first place. A refined mind checks its aim, studying the contact rather than worshiping sheer force. Stumbling isn't a failure, guys. It's humility with motion.
Act 5. Resolution. Ultimately, scarcity tells you that every choice is a final verdict. It makes the body small and it turns the future into a creditor you owe. But refinement tells you that every choice is a contact point. In biology, a cell survives by sensing gradients, comparing signals rather than worshiping just one. And a person matures the exact same way. You are allowed to want with warmth, you are allowed to choose with doubt, and you are absolutely allowed to revise without self-contempt.
To make this a reality, you must treat this as a daily practice, not just intellectual decoration. At upgowise.com, deep dive the philosophy. The next time a choice feels terribly urgent, just pause. Ask what the forecast stole and ask what it invented. You might still choose the hard path, but a clean sacrifice has air in it, while a scarce sacrifice just feels like a locked throat.
To navigate all of this, ask yourself one final question. Are you building a life for who you are today or for a phantom you've merely invented? Your future self is a stranger.